Oh, great. We got the one that Dave and
That's all.
Darlene had during the.
Lucky you. But does that mean that we don't have to keep it?
That's it.
Well,
I'm out.
You're gonna hear the crackle.
You're all.
Snap, crackle, pop.
Just give their teeth.
I always knew you were in the closet.
Which you like.
Okay, feel free. We'll share.
Okay.
Good people like that.
I got
Well,
it.
you can,
Does this one not work? Is that what
you
it
just
is?
have to put it down.
Oh, you have to hold it down for it to work.
Yeah.
I might just share with Chuck.
Yeah.
I'm basically lazy.
You don't want your thumb to cramp up.
Exactly, yeah. I needed to do data entry later on this evening when I try to finish up quick for today.
I used to run Len. Len would always be typing it.
Yeah.
You know, because. And he was, I'm a pretty good touch typer, but he could flunk.
I'm terrible.
Where are the rest of
Terrible. I make more typos than I do correct.
That's what I never did when I got on the law.
You went that way.
Back
Outlets are there. Outlets are over there.
practice them. And
I
I,
went shortest.
adult ed class.
It's to the left.
Wow.
And it was everything
I
that.
trouble if you, one of you gentlemen to come in, please.
Oh,
Room in that thing, and I'll send this down around this way.
Give me that thingy.
Don't pull a hamstring, Mark.
I do,
No, you're right.
Got it?
Yep, it's in. You should be good to go.
I will leave that part alone.
There it is.
On that side.
They're kind of getting this out of the fence, like a little hallway. And I'm thinking like, hey, check what are you doing?
Yeah, blown away, coming to the wind. Bills. Just don't-
Yeah.
Probably somebody took a sweater over his head.
Oh, were you playing hockey again? It's kind of one of those.
Maybe.
Right.
Could be.
It was always a winning hockey. It was probably the best thing I could do playing hockey.
Pull a sweater over somebody's head?
Yep.
Thanks, Jen.
We good?
Sure.
We're ready to roll?
Trying to get started, just want to get home, right?
So red is on, we're good.
There's no. It's not.
Yeah, that's right.
Steve Bennett splits theme song you're
Yeah.
singing.
It makes you happy no matter when you see it. You know what, the other one that always is that is,
good?
Jackson.
Everybody ready?
Oh, yeah, right.
Much
beloved of Benny Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our November 12th Portsmouth Town Council meeting. So works great. Just want to go in the evacuation procedures first. In the event of an emergency, there are exit doors at the rear of the auditorium. We'd exit the building, head over to the parking lot to the right and await further instruction. If we could all please stand for our pledge of allegiance and silence for men and women serving in harm's way. Also to honor veterans, as Veterans Day was yesterday. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, begin with our, well, we are streaming. Let me back up. We are streaming tonight. Those of you that are participating remotely on Zoom, there's an icon for you to raise your hand. If you're calling in on the phone, *6 will allow you to mute and unmute your phone. *9 will indicate to the host that you have a question. If you're speaking tonight, either remote or in person, please state your name and address for the town clerk. Now we'll begin with our roll call.
Mr. Gleason,
Here.
Mr. Hamilton,
Here.
Mr. Levesque,
Here.
Mr. Kayar,
Here.
Dr. Ryan,
Here.
Mr. Aguirre.
Okay, President's executive summary. There was no executive session, so I do not have any update for an executive summary. We'll move on to our consent agenda.
You folks could all hear Kevin, okay, right?
Nice. Consent agenda.
Motion. Second. Motion to approve as presented. Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I can hear Dave.
This is working.
Motion passes 6-0. Okay, next. We'll be sitting as the Board of License Commissioners. First item is a request to advertise for a public hearing. This is the, it's an application for the Class BV beverage license for Graphic Coffee Company LLC.
So moved.
Second.
Date, right?
It would be till January,
I believe it's December 1.
December 9th would be the earliest.
yep.
Hold on.
I think that's
Require a
right.
separate
I
motion.
didn't know it's that December 9th
No.
would be your
First council meeting after, first council meeting of the new council would be
December 9th.
Yes. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Okay, next we have go through our annual liquor license renewals.
Mr. President, can I move that all the annual liquor license renewals A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H, I, and J that are listed under renewals be approved as presented?
Unfortunately, I like your idea, but I'm gonna have to recuse on
I believe that, I was told that there was a separate listing for the ones that.
No,
no.
You included D there. Wouldn't it be?
A, C, D, F, G, H.
So B is Mr. Hamilton has to recuse himself. E, Mr. Hamilton recuses himself.
D.
Mr. Aguirre recuses himself for the Portuguese American Club. So, and 6, it's all the people who recused, so they're separate ones. So, those you'll need to. So basically, Green Valley, Montauk, Portuguese American Club, and Allen's Liquors, there's somebody on the council that needs to recuse.
So you can do them in groups. Can I have the motion?
Yeah, no, so we're gonna do them in groups.
Do them in groups. So I would make a motion that we approve the annual liquor licenses for Class A, which is subsection A. Class BHBT, subsection C there. Section D, Class BV. Section F, Class BV ancillary. Section G, Class BVL. Section H, Class D. Section Section J, Class J.
Second. Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
If you can go back and,
So then it was, we gotta go back to.
So we need to approve the licenses for Class A, Allen's Wine and Spirits.
Second.
Mr. President, I'll be recusing since my son is employed there.
Okay. So that's Class A, Allen's Wine and Spirits. What's that?
Drop the money.
All right. Again, so it's a Class A, Allen's Wine and Spirits. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0 with Mr. Hamilton recused.
Mr. President, the next one, the Class BV Green Valley.
Second.
And I will be recusing from that one as well, since I am a member of Green Valley.
I'll be recusing because I'm a member at Montauk.
But we haven't gotten there yet.
We will.
We're on E. We're on E.
Or on the wrong, well, I get
We're on
it in front of me, so.
On country
Yeah.
club,
Okay. Okay, so all those in favor for
Green Valley.
Class BV, Green Valley Country Club?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
But I think that's what we're going to do.
Were you guys were ayes?
Well, yes.
Motion passes 5-0 with Mr. Hamilton recusing. Next was
Motion to approve Class D licenses for Montauk Country Club and the Portuguese American Citizens Club.
Seconded.
I'm recusing on the, I'm
I'll be
going to recuse
recusing.
on Portuguese American Club.
Mr. Hamilton, would you mind doing them separate?
Sure. Motion to approve the Class D license for Montauk Country Club.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes
One recusal.
5-0 with Mr. Gleason recusing.
And motion to approve the Class D license for the Portsmouth Portuguese American Club.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
With Mr. Aguirre recusing. Motion passes
With Mr.
5-0.
Aguirre. Motion passes 5-0, Mr. Aguirre recused.
All right, we'll get through this.
Next up, we have section 3, annual Sunday sales licenses for Ferrera's Package Stores, Moriarty's and Sam Bev. Motion to approve.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Annual Sunday sales license renewal for Allen's Wine and Liquor.
Second.
You're going to recuse, right?
I will again recuse myself.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0 with Mr. Hamilton recusing.
And annual victualler license with extended hours renewals for Cumberland Farms, Equidnick Donuts, Portsmouth Donuts, Drake Petroleum Company.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Part number 1.
Then we're on the annual victicular license. We'll do them one at a time.
So annual victualler license renewal for Green Valley Country Club.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes
501.
5-0 with one recusal, Mr. Hamilton. Next, it's
Annual victualler license renewal for Montauk Country Club.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
One recusal.
Motion passes 5-0-1.
And finally, the annual victualler license for the Portsmouth Portuguese American Club.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, one recusal, Mr. Aguirre.
Thank you. Mr.
Motion to adjourn as the Board of License Commissioners.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. All right, let's move on to minutes. We've got our October 21st executive session and our October 28th meeting.
Mr. President, move they be approved as sent.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. President, I'll recuse myself from the October 28th meeting.
Okay. All right, so the motion passes,
Actually, I need to recuse myself as well, so that's two recusals.
motion passes 4-0, two recusals for Mr. Piero.
Or on there.
It was the 21st. I guess the
All right, let's
propofol still works.
do a little do-over here. Let's do the executive on 10/21.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And
One recusal.
one
One
recusal.
recusal,
Okay,
two recusals.
two recusals,
Not recusals, just
And Mr.
Abstain.
President,
same.
move-
abstentions.
abstain.
I would move approval of the Portland Town Council meeting, regular meeting minutes of October 28, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And I abstain as well from this one.
Okay, one, so it's 5-0 with one abstain. All right. We'll move on to the town administrator's report. Mr. Rainey.
Mr. President, Town Council, ladies and gentlemen. Negotiation for the next collective bargaining agreement with the police is underway. and proposals were exchanged on November 4th. We will meet with them again on the 21st. Additionally, we concluded the wage reopener negotiation with the PMEA union, that's the clerks union, last week, and have tentatively approved an agreement which will be brought before the council at the December 9th meeting. A groundbreaking ceremony for the Ade Bethune House in the Portsmouth Senior Center will be held tomorrow at 11 a.m. The event will be held behind the existing senior center. The Executive Facility Siting Board, the EFSB, will conduct an open meeting on Thursday, November 21st at 1 p.m. at the Public Utilities Commission offices in Warwick. The board will discuss and/or vote on the Narragansett Electric Company's, or Rhode Island Energy's, application to rebuild the existing energy transmission lines located in Tiverton and Portsmouth. This is the project that has been briefed to the council and chambers previously. More information can be found at the Public Utilities Commission website or through the news and announcements section on the town website. With respect to the Enbridge gas pipeline, the progress has been coming along in recent weeks, and the plan continues to be to complete the construction phase of the project by the end of the year. While the construction permits allowed for weekend work throughout the entire length of the project, the company has avoided that thus far. Last week, however, the construction company determined that Sunday work during November will be necessary to meet the end of year timeline. The work will be conducted by small crews on each side of the river, so a crew in Portsmouth and a crew in Little Compton. Residents along the right of way have been notified, and more information and a link to the information overview about the project is available on the town planner webpage. And then lastly, just a reminder, the town hall will be closed the last Thursday and Friday of this month, so November 28th and 29th, in observance of the Thanksgiving holiday. Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Rayner. Okay. Moving on to resignations and appointments. We have resignations for the Economic Development Committee.
Mr. President, move that the resignation of Timothy Grissett be accepted with regret.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And next we have the Juvenile Hearing Board.
Mr. President, I move that the resignation of Michael Allen be accepted with regret.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Okay, moving on to new business. First item is to request to advertise for a public hearing for a town council to render an advisory opinion to the Energy Facilities Siting Board as to whether the South Coast Wind Project will meet noise ordinance limits.
Mr. President, I would move that we advertise for the hearing as directed by the Energy Facilities Siting Board.
And hold the hearing on December 9th.
Chuck,
Speaking to my
What date?
December 9th.
December 9th.
December 9th.
Second.
So it's the advertised for the public hearing will be on December 9th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Okay, next item is new business number 2. Public hearing. This is to request approval for the proposed amendment to Chapter 236 Solid Waste to add Article 7 curbside collection and transport of residential refuse, recyclables, yard waste, and bulky waste. So this is, before I I'll turn it over. But this is the ordinance that was intended to be put in place after we've awarded the contract for the curbside collection. The curbside collection process started several years ago. Earlier this year, the council put out an RFP for curbside collection services. That contract was that bid came in and was awarded back in February?
No.
May. I'm sorry, got the wrong date here. May. Part of that RFP emphasized that that there would be a single source, single hauler. And this ordinance is what is now the final piece to the curbside collection process. So we do have the ordinance. At this point, Mr. Rayner, is there?
Sure, I think it might be helpful just to kind of walk through a
Yep.
timeline of how we got here. As you stated, on October 11th of 2022, the town council directed staff to work with our consultant to develop a hybrid solution, which would include a curbside collection program for the entire town. In 2023, on March 14th, 2023, we posted a white paper which discussed the program, how we thought it might work, and solicited comment from the public. In that white paper, it stated that having a single hauler in town for curbside collection is the preferred option. Typically, a single hauler under a townwide contract should result in lower cost per household when compared to multiple subscription haulers. However, the town needed roughly 80%, a little over 5,000 eligible households to sign up for the town's contractor, which would mean that the bid price would be significantly lower than the current subscription service unless the town wanted to mandate a single townwide hauler. Also from the white paper, it was stated that the single hauler and estimated number of residents for the RFP would be the most difficult part of the new program because that, quite frankly, would be extremely difficult to estimate the number of residents who would sign up for the program. So based on the experience of Middletown, roughly 80% of the potentially eligible households were likely to, we felt would be likely to sign up if all the households are not required to use the town's electric contractor. An educated guess would be that about 5,800 households would sign up out of the 7,200 households in Portsmouth. That's since been modified. There's about 6,700 eligible households that could sign up for the program. Of that, right now, we subtract out about 20, there are about 2,100 that are currently signed up for the transfer station. That left 4,600. We deducted 600 from that just because there are people that will find other ways to dispose of their trash. So we base the RFP on about 4,000 eligible houses. On May 22nd of 2023, the council voted for a single hauler to serve Portsmouth. The motion was motion to have an exclusive single hauler to service the municipality. It was made by Councilor Levesque, seconded by Ms. Abbott. Motion passed 4-1. Katzman and Aguirre in dissent. Mr. Gleason abstained. On January 22nd of this year, the council voted to request the current RFP pertaining to the operation of the transfer station to be issued so that the transfer station would be kept open in its entirety and currently operating as it is now, which we have done. The first paragraph of the curbside RFP states, in accordance with the council direction, that the town of Portsmouth is seeking proposals to enter into an exclusive contract for the purpose of curbside collection of residential waste recycling and yard waste. In addendum 3 to that curbside RFP, the question that the vendors posted, will residents have the option of using the transfer station, joining the town program, or using their own private service? It was responded that residents will have two options: using the transfer station or using the town's curbside collection program. And that the town would adopt an ordinance for a single hauler for curbside collection for the residents that fall under this RFP. And that was in accordance with the council direction that this would be an exclusive hauler contract. On May 13th, the curbside RFP and the RFP responses were discussed by the council. The council voted to award the curbside collection contract to MTG Disposal. So therefore, it should not be that surprising that to enact an ordinance after decision to go with the exclusive contract, because it would make no sense if there was, if we didn't go with an exclusive contract, there would be no purpose for an exclusive hauler ordinance. There's been obviously, there's tremendous inquiries about the legality of doing such, enacting such a program. Forwarded an incredible amount of information to the council. But the bottom line is that the proposed ordinance enforcement is crafted to remain compliant with legal precedents surrounding this area of discussion. In essence, the ordinance aims to establish an exclusive curbside waste collection service within the town of Portsmouth by awarding a contract to a single hauler, which was in direction with council direction, which will standardize waste collection services. This type of arrangement is a common municipal approach and is designed to streamline services, reduce traffic from multiple collection vehicles, and control costs in environmental impact to the town, which were all discussed in previous meetings by the council. And these were the things that were tackled in the RFP. So because the ordinance pertains specifically to a service contract within a local jurisdiction of Portsmouth, it should not be seen as a local it should be seen as a local regulatory action, not a restriction on interstate commerce, for the purpose that this bid was open to all vendors, whether in or out of state. There is a First Circuit Court of Appeals case which addressed this exact issue, the Holden case, Holden, Maine. And that provides the president for affirming that an exclusive waste hauling ordinance does not constitute an unconstitutional taking and interfere impermissibly with private contracts. The court recognized a municipality's authority to regulate services like waste collection in the interest of public health, safety, and welfare, aligning with Portsmouth's goals of cost efficiency and environmental benefit. So we're here tonight, obviously, to discuss the ordinance, but the ordinance was, in essence, already not the wording, but the willingness or the desire of the council to enact an ordinance was already voted on back in May when you approved the RFP for a single exclusive hauler in Portsmouth. And that's what you're here to discuss tonight. We do have our consultant online and obviously the staff here to take questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rayner. Okay. Any questions from councilors? Dr. Ryan?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Mr. Rayner for forwarding all of this information and giving me many hours of pleasurable reading on legal implications that I don't understand very well. My question was, what would be the negative ramifications of not passing such an ordinance? I mean, in the material you gave us, it was clear that courts recognize the municipalities' constitutional right to regulate services within the town, and that trash collection falls within that rubric, given its effects on the economic and physical health of the people of the town. That being the case, if the town is recognized as having this right, what would be the downsides of not enacting this ordinance?
Well, there's a couple. First off, it was stated in the RFP there should be an exclusive hauler ordinance or a contract. Second, as stated in the white paper, the most difficult part of this whole process, you're enacting a brand new program, which will in fact be in competition with the transfer station. So one of the most difficult aspects of developing this program was to, as best we could, estimate the number of people that would be signed up or will sign up for this program. There's, I believe I discussed this at a previous meeting, but there's an extensive logistics tail that needs to be put in place, not the least of which is the ordering of these bins. So the waste bins and the recycling bins. If our estimate holds true, 4,000, that's 8,000 bins that have to be ordered. This is $1 million cost to the program, which would be rolled into the enterprise fund and amortized over 5 years. If the ordinance is not enacted, there's no way to enforce an exclusive hauler contract. We've already done outreach to other vendors who have already stated that without an ordinance, they will continue to offer teaser rates. So these are rates that are designed to entice people to sign up to the program with a sunset period that where the price of the program would go up and exceed what we estimate the cost of our program will be. Without those teaser rates, the exclusive hauler contract is and will be cheaper than what the current rates are for subscription service, what in essence what we have in Portsmouth right now. So the obvious, most certain risk is the cost of the barrels would have to be borne by someone. If it remains in the enterprise fund, that $1 million cost would be rolled into the fewer number of people who sign up to a program, which could potentially be more expensive than the teaser rate. After which that teaser rate goes away. There may be people that want to join the Portsmouth program, but by then a lot of the damage will have been done.
Good.
The other thing, the other issue that you have to address is you in essence entered into a contract already that states it's an exclusive hauler. So there may be implications there. The other thing is it wasn't just the price that we were asked to tackle. And again, this has been going on for a number of years now, but we were asked to tackle a number of issues. And the biggest complaint that drove us in the beginning was not the price. It was the number of trucks that are running on our roads, the wear and tear on our infrastructure, the number of trucks at any given time that are in neighborhoods at the same time, and the environmental impact of all these trucks on our roads. So this is what we could potentially forego if we don't enact this. There's just no way to enforce this program without, they go hand in hand without the ordinance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Rayner. Mr. Levesque?
Thank you, Mr. President. As was noted by the administrator on May 13th, this council unanimously approved the RFP that we had set out. And part of that RFP told the vendor that we were going to have an exclusive contract. All of the decisions made by that vendor included their knowledge that we were going to have a program with an exclusive contract, which would be enforced by an ordinance. If in fact we don't pass this ordinance, then that agreement is violated. Whether there's any repercussions of that agreement being violated, I wouldn't hazard a guess, although I will tell you that in the future, it will probably make Portsmouth not a particularly good place for people to make proposals to, seeing as we change our mind with a certain amount of regularity. The trash hauling business is probably one of the most competitive and often predatory businesses around. If in fact we have an agreement with a vendor for curbside pickup in the town of Portsmouth, there will be, because the town of Portsmouth is a public organization, a recitation of the amount of the cost that we are charging. All of the predatory other organizations will then know exactly what they have to do in order to beat that price. I have actually observed during about 40 years of dealing with trash on this island, back to the days of Mr. Maha down in Newport, that they would be more than willing to take a loss in order to screw this program up. And they would, in fact, engage in predatory pricing. They would come in with lowball figures, and they would essentially try to destroy the program. The program only works if, in fact, it has exclusivity. The only way they can guarantee the lowest price, and it's an economy of scale that requires that they only have one vehicle going down one street and picking up all the trash. If in fact they're only picking up one household on that, the value of the contract is extraordinarily diminished. as the administrator pointed out, this was not merely an economic benefit to the town of Portsmouth, the people of the town of Portsmouth that we were looking to obtain. We are also looking to stop having the pollution, the traffic, the other annoyances all associated with all different vendors coming into the town. And I would point out to you, if in fact right now it's maybe only 3 vendors, but potentially it could be hundreds. And I know some people say, how do you have the ability to restrict it? Well, trash hauling is a utility. And essentially what we're saying, like the electric lines you see, we don't want to have a dozen, 2 dozen people patrolling our streets picking up trash. So the exclusivity guarantees we'll actually have a good price, a price that everybody will know, and we will have an opportunity to keep all of these vehicles off the road. So at this particular juncture, we have promised this vendor, we have asked this vendor, or asked a number of vendors, to provide us with bids. And a central part of that bid was the exclusivity. And now, and again, in May, we unanimously accepted that bid. Every person sitting here, except for Mr. Payero, voted for it. Well, yes, they did. And now to turn around some months later and just say, well, that didn't matter, is not particularly good government. I would ask the people, and I would also say to the people who are concerned about the transfer station, you won. Whatever was the plan before I got on the council about the transfer station, you folks won. The transfer station is not going to close except by its own weight. Because right now, we have a plan to keep the transfer station going ad infinitum without any limitation. This is a separate issue. The issue is, should we do curbside pickup? Is it the best thing for the town of Portsmouth? Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Levesque. This is a public hearing, so I am going to open up the floor for comments on the ordinance. If you, again, I just want to repeat that if you are coming up to speak, please state your name and address for the town clerk. And we'll try to make sure we can accommodate everybody that wishes to speak. The floor is open. If anybody would like to come up and speak. Yeah, great. I see the red light.
Good evening. My name is Matt Yates. Address,
Get a little closer, and could you also say what your address is?
just gonna state that. It's 433 Windstone Drive. Any question, I'm not sure if this is the appropriate forum for this, but the award has already been granted to MTG, that's my understanding. Yet the public doesn't know what the cost is going to be. Has that been given to the public yet?
Mr. President, I can address that. Yeah, we discussed this at the last meeting. We will be prepared to present both the cost for the transfer station and the curbside program, if you choose to continue to go forward with this program, at the first night of business for the new council, that'd be December 9th. The plan is to start making those programs available for sign up January 9th. The plan is also not to require the program wouldn't start until July 1st of 2025. So what we would do is we would give residents 6 months to pay for the program. We would ask that they sign up, put down a deposit. You take 6 months to pay the program. Once it's paid, you get your sticker. So that way there's not a huge upfront cost to anybody who's signing up for either program right after the holidays.
So I guess the question though is, the contract's already been awarded, town brought intents and purposes going to be forced to go with MTG disposal. There will be no option to go with any other hauler. Yet, I don't know as an individual what my cost is going to be. If it's actually going to be less than my current hauler. I don't know what the specifics are of the bins as far as size. I don't know what the specifics are of the additional services that they're providing. In relation to what I'm already receiving from my current provider, so. How could the council have made this decision without revealing this information to the town for our input?
Get onto the affected land.
Most of those issues were addressed in the RFP and in MTG's bid response. The only additional cost that we need to figure out is how we're going to amortize the bins and exactly if there's going to be any grant money. We anticipate that the bins you'll have a choice between a 64-gallon bin and a 96-gallon bin. We're going with the 64-gallon bin, so if you request a larger bin, you'll have to request it. The operations cost has all been laid out in their proposal. In essence, it's just like any other enterprise fund, just like the transfer station. We're going to guess right now that 4,000 households will sign up. So you take all those costs, divide it by 4,000, and you come up with it's going to be about $445 cost for curbside. Transfer station, we just got that bid response. We're crunching the numbers right now. The council directed us to present two prices for the transfer station, one with pay-as-you-throw and one eliminating pay-as-you-throw, and we'll be prepared to present both of those prices so that the consumer, the resident, will be able to judge for themselves which program is best for them and their wallet come January 1st.
Thank you. With regard to the bin sizes, said we would have a choice. Would it be an additional cost if I choose a larger bin size?
I think the director of DPW is right behind you, but I don't believe so. Yeah.
Council President of the council, so the refuge bins are all 64-gallon bins. If you want to upsize to a recyclable bin to a 96-gallon, there's no cost associated with that, but we will swap out 64-gallon recyclable bin.
But if I want a 96-gallon trash bin,
Those are not part of the RFP. Okay, it's all 64.
thank you.
Okay, may I just respond? And perhaps this is an addendum. There is going to be competition in the town. The competition is going to be between the curbside vendor and the transfer station. That is going to be the choice. You will not have a trash hauler knock on your door and demand your trash. You will have to sign up for it. All right, and you will know the price you're signing up for at the time that goes on. We do not have a solid price because we do not know a number of variables, how many people are going to opt in, how many people are going to opt out. But what we are confident of from everybody else's experience almost throughout the world is that we can bring it in at a price that is cheaper than you're currently paying. And the reason I would say that that's a problem in a way is only because I don't know what you're paying and you don't know what I'm paying. Because the trash company don't put out a list. So you may find out your neighbor has a much better price for you because they went and argued about it one time. Okay, with the town, everybody will know the price. Here's the price. You want it, you don't want it. If you want it, we'll have a trash hauler at your door. And I do want to mention just another quick thing. All of the comments that were heard were addressed by the administrator in putting together that RFP, and we all reviewed it. There are things like people were concerned about, will the elderly have an opportunity to have somebody go to their house and actually pick the garbage up from the back door? That's in the agreement. Okay, will people have an opportunity to do different things like that in the agreement? We try to accommodate every concern that was expressed to us. are the ones that we haven't gotten to yet, perhaps because we don't know everything. But when we do, we as a town will be able to negotiate much better than, and I'm sure you're a good negotiator, but much better than you or her or him or him. Okay, because we have 4,000 people paying the bill.
And you don't know you have 4,000 people. paying.
Well, again, sir, I
Just
don't.
interject a second. I compared what we're paying our private hauler, in Portsmouth, with, the rates that are being charged in 4 other towns that have townwide curbside. And the savings was substantial for all the people in those towns. So I, with my, sort of contracted curbside and paying a lot more than these people are who have a large, townwide curbside. It makes sense that that would be true since haulers are willing to offer lower rates if they get a larger number of people to haul from. So if we are in the ballpark of any of those towns, I know that my bill will go down.
President, if I may.
Hold on. Go ahead, Mr. Rayner.
Yeah, obviously, this was a big question that came up. First, regarding, we don't know if there's going to be 4,000. You're absolutely right. We don't know. However, that's what we're going to base the pricing on. And the way the enterprise fund works is it works exactly the same way with the transfer station. You estimate what the number of signups are going to be for that year. If there's more signups, it results in a reduced price the following year because the enterprise fund has to fund itself and it's not there to make a profit. If there's less people, that deficit will get rolled into the sticker price the following year, and then we look for ways that we can save money. The other thing that I'll address is the consultant that's been working on this for a number of years. They were also asked to study this issue for RIREC. Do towns with subscription-based service, which is what we have right now, do they have higher or lower prices than municipalities that have exclusive hauler service? And I'll let Mr. Sigler address this, but the bottom line is, yes, towns with exclusive hauler service, I believe that there were 24 towns in Rhode Island that they studied or came in lower than subscription-based service. So Mr. Sigler, if you can jump in here, please.
Yeah,
Mr. Sigler is our town consultant for the this whole process.
Is he on one?
Yeah, he's on. Yes, he was.
He was. Is he?
He disconnected himself. He was there and he's gone.
We lost him in.
I think we.
I'm here. Can you hear me now?
There we
There you
go.
go.
Rich, as I stated to you in a memorandum, in 2020, we did a comprehensive analysis for all of municipalities in Rhode Island for the Rhode Island Resource Recovery Corporation. They were interested in what collection costs were and whether they should attempt some type of additional organics collection. And so we did a baseline cost estimate or survey of every municipality in Rhode Island. 23 municipalities in Rhode Island have either a municipal contract, which is a single hauler, or a collection contract with a single hauler. And on average, the average cost for those 23 municipalities compared to the 3 municipalities that have, and not including Portsmouth, that have subscription service townwide, is a savings of roughly 40%. And that is fairly consistent with what has been reported to be the conscription collection costs in Portsmouth from the various haulers that operate there compared to what the bid by Meta was for a single townwide contract. And if you were to assume that average, then the savings townwide associated or for the 4,000 households who would participate, that those households would save roughly $500,000 a year by going with this single townwide contract as opposed to continuing to subscribe for private haulers.
But thank you. I can say with absolute certainty that I will not save 40%.
Yeah.
So I don't know what rates those were based on, but it is not on the current rates that are being provided by private haulers. And I thank you for your apology there, Mr. Levesque. I'm not an excellent negotiator, but I will make a phone call. And that's all it takes. It's just like our wonderful internet service, Cox. We're stuck with Cox. Who here does not have to make a call every time their contract is over to ask for a better price? I'm not gonna have that option now with MTG. And if I'm part of the private hauler choice, because I choose not to use the dump, then I'm not gonna have the choice to negotiate anything. And as far as the bin sizes that you permanent information, I already have a 96 gallon bin with my current hauler. I'm gonna go down to 64. If I need a second bin, I'm gonna pay more, I have to assume, if that's even an option. So now my savings go out the window.
President. You may be correct. It may not save you money. I believe it's that townwide, it will save the vast majority of people.
Closer, can't hear.
It will save the vast majority.
I just want,
My train just ran right off the track.
All right.
It will save the vast majority of people a lot of money. Okay. I don't know what a year from now is gonna be, but if it screws up, then you can come back and yell at actually a bunch of different people and tell them, we don't want to do this no more. But I'm telling you that, give it some time, have some faith. All right, we
This isn't
did
about
this.
faith, sir.
It is, we are your representatives, sir, and we did the best we could over like a 5-year period of time, trying to get this done. All right, and with, quite frankly, not only no thanks, but a lot of approbation. But that's okay, that's the job. But I'm just telling you, give it some time. You might be right, I might be wrong, it's happened. But I'm gonna say a year from now, maybe we should get together at Green Valley. Mr. Hamilton will buy the beer and we can talk it over, okay?
Let's agree to disagree on that. I can probably have
Okay.
or talk to anybody about this, but in a year, I don't believe we have a choice to say no to this.
Actually, almost everything can be undone.
Is that written in this contract that can be undone in a year if?
You know, if it doesn't work out for them, if we don't have
I know.
if everybody goes to the compactor, anything can happen during that period of time.
I just, Mr. Lebec, I would like to give Mr. Lewis an opportunity to speak. Listen.
Thank you for your comments. I would suspect that you would have preferred if the town wasn't surprising you all. And, you know, we've been working on this, this is our third attempt to get curbside to pass, but it has changed so much in each evolution. I think you pointed out, most people probably didn't know that we won't be matching apples and apples because you have a 95 gallon container now. Most people do with Waste Management or Harvey or whatever. And now you're gonna have a 60 gallon. And it's still not clear to me, you know, there's an option, I believe, to buy a town orange bag to fill your overflow. So you can put that on top of your 60 gallon container. So we'll take that away. But that's not clear to me, and I'm on the council. So there are some gray areas. I would have preferred to have seen this go out as a survey to people, how many people would be willing to ditch their current hauler if the price was $425, $450 or whatever. I mean, most of the numbers are looking in that range right now. And I know there are people out there that are paying less than that. There are people that are, you know, signing up now that are paying $800. You know, and I understand they're gonna save money, but they're, you know, they're not doing the proper shopping, for lack of better words. But I don't know that we took the right approach here. And, you know, now we're down to forcing it down everybody's throat. That's the way I look at it. The ordinances implied, the measures that we passed at the town council meeting, and I want to personally thank President Aguirre and past counselor Lenny Tassman, we were striving to get 7,200 people to do curbside. We were eliminating the transfer station at that point and using it 2 days a week for bulky waste only. And you had to buy extra money if you wanted to use it. So we, with the thoughts that came out of those two gentlemen to have two enterprise funds, that's how we saved the transfer station. But the whole battle to save the transfer station has now changed. We have a physical structure, but now with this program, it's going to be people, are they going to want to leave the transfer station? I mean, ultimately, the way I read it, town wants to close the transfer station and have 7,200 people go to curbside, period. Now, I'm not supporting that. We all need a choice.
Gleason, why did you vote in favor of the RFP when it was before in May?
I'll tell you, I voted for the low bidder on the RFP.
What's that?
I didn't vote for an ordinance. I voted for the low bidder, which was MEGA.
You voted for what?
You should go through the chair. You shouldn't be talking.
All right, let's just,
No, but I want an answer. Thank you very much.
That was,
You talk to the chair.
doesn't work.
All right.
all right,
The
Jeff, let's, all
vote was, I voted for the low bidder, Counselor.
right, hey,
Moving right along.
let's try to get it back on track.
You voted for it.
Okay, Chuck, hold on. This is a public hearing. Let's say comments.
He voted for it.
I understand that. It's right, it's in writing, it's in black and white. We got it here.
Thank you all for your input and the answers to my questions. I appreciate it.
But I'll let you finish.
No, I was gonna say, I'm absolutely not happy with the outcome because it will result in me paying more money, and I'm sure other people like me. It absolutely should have been put out for a survey to the residents. I wasn't a resident in 2020. I was in 2021. I would have preferred to have had some input on that. If it was and I missed it, then I apologize for the comment.
But then I just wanted to circle back. And it's been stated a few times that this has been a lengthy process. And we did go through this exercise we started in the fall of 22, and it was in the spring of 23 where we went through the process with putting out the surveys and having public hearings. I mean, we did have some lengthy discussions about the scope of services because all along there's been a discussion to try to consolidate curbside and also keep the transfer station open. I know I've heard it, but I've been on the council 10 years. I've never once been part of any agenda that had an issue to close the transfer station. I know that's the rumor, but we've done everything we can. We've done everything possible to keep the transfer station open through the years. The issue with the transfer station is it's old, it's functionally obsolete, and it could, over time, result in increased costs and those sticker prices. If it's down to 2,000 people, years ago it was 2,800 people, 2,700 people. That number keeps dwindling. It's going to get to a point where that just might not be financially feasible for some folks to afford a transfer station. But for the people that use the transfer station, they're pretty tolerant and they will continue to pay as long as it's reasonable. And all along, and Mr. Gleason just said it, we decided, the best option here would be to try to have two enterprise funds. One would operate the transfer station, the other would operate curbside. And we went through this process to try to identify all of the different elements that go into the curbside program with yard waste, collection. There was a lot of effort that went into it, and maybe you missed the hearings, maybe you missed the survey, maybe you missed the notices. But we did go through that process. This was not done in a vacuum. But it's been a long process. And so I understand where you're coming from.
I understand it wasn't done in a vacuum. I didn't see a survey. I chose not to attend the hearings. So I'm not here to relitigate that. I'm just saying that I don't feel the public's best interest was taken into account in any of this. So thank you all.
Could I ask, so if we're talking about 445 a year, I don't know the exact number, that's what we're hearing, but is that less, would that be less than what you're currently paying?
Slightly, yes, but for 2/3 size trash bin as well.
But I don't know the exact, and I don't know off the top of my head what the menu of services are with the curbside program, but there's yard waste collection. There was a lot of stuff that went into the overall effort.
My private holiday does all that as well.
It's hard to compare apples to apples at this point, but there was a lot of effort went into it through surveys to try and hone in on what would be best for the town.
Thank you.
Chris Barsteller, 63 Leeds Road. As most of you know from prior meetings and my emails, my family is adamantly against being mandated to use the curbside pickup company you chose. Even when the transfer station was incorporated in our taxes, it was my freedom to do so, and I chose to pick Waste Management. It was my freedom to do so, and since I paid for it, it was my choice. The transfer station is still open, and I still fight to have that open, even though I don't use it, because I think it's a choice. Just for reference, by the show of hands, everybody in this panel, can you please let me know who uses curbside pickup? First of all, I find it very upsetting that this council decided to put off this vote on this ordinance until tonight, after the election, but before the new town council is put into place. For those of you who are campaigning again, this vote may have affected your election results. And most likely the reason none of you, other than Mr. Gleason, replied to my emails until after the election. Most of you voting tonight on this ordinance will no longer be on this council. In the draft ordinance number 2024 that we're speaking about tonight, it says, the town council finds that the current process of curbside collection, transport, and disposal of residential refuse, recyclables, yard waste, and bulky waste in the town directly and negatively affects the public health, safety, and welfare by the operation of multiple heavy trucks by multiple waste haulers on town streets on different days of the week, resulting in unnecessary traffic and public safety risks, carbon emissions, noise pollution, unsightly conditions, and wear and tear on our streets. If this is the reasoning for mandating a single trash hauler, what is to keep you from mandating just one oil company from coming to our town? Or one package delivery company coming into our town? Or one landscape company coming into our town? That is the reason. You get my point. Right now, majority of the 5 neighborhoods that I walk 3 miles a day in, every single day, use Waste Management. I have pictures to prove it. With only a couple of households using a different company. So our neighborhoods practically have one truck being used right now. Meanwhile, we have at least 5 different delivery companies whipping down our streets daily. FedEx, USPS, UPS, Walmart, and Amazon. In the draft ordinance number 2024, it says, on January 29, 2024, the town issued a request for proposals, which sought proposals to enter into an exclusive contract. Exclusive. It seems that our town saw proposals for an exclusive contract before writing up this ordinance, or talking about it back then, to mandate the residents only use one trash hauler. Shouldn't that have been discussed before and voted on before you sought proposals? How could our town promise something that wasn't discussed beforehand? Couldn't we have gotten the same quotes without promising that? I know Middletown did. In the draft ordinance 2024, it says prohibited acts. It shall be unlawful for any generator of residential waste, commercial waste hauler, or other person or entity to engage or participate in the curbside collection, disposal, or transport of residential waste, recyclables, yard waste, and bulky wastes, or to interfere in any way with the activities and operations of the town and its designated waste hauler in contravention of this ordinance. Does this mean if a contractor works on a house in Portsmouth, they have to use Mega for any trash disposal? There are companies that have their own dumpsters when removing trash from a house. Will the homeowners be fined if this happens? If someone uses 1-800-GOT-JUNK and puts their garbage at the curb for them to pick it up, how's that handled? According to this ordinance, we would be fined for doing this. If a landscape company comes and does a yard cleanup for me and takes away my yard waste, how is that handled? According to this ordinance, we would be fine doing it since it's considered yard waste. If there's a natural disaster, like a hurricane or storm, like in North Carolina or Florida recently, and every household has 25-foot pile of trash at the curb, will Mega be the only company allowed to pick this up? Will we be fined if we use a different company because we don't want to wait weeks to have a single hauler pick it up? I was just in Clearwater this weekend, and that's exactly what's happening right now. There are massive amounts of yard waste piled up in front of houses waiting to be picked up for weeks. If I choose to give away used furniture, scrap metal, or have a clean out and list my items on free online, will I be fined for having someone other than Mega pick up my trash? Because what is the definition of waste? One man's trash is another man's treasure. If I choose to compost with a company that picks up my food waste, leaves, yard waste, coffee grounds, etc. at my curbside, you know, those little tiny containers that are at everybody's houses, is that considered curbside collection that's picked up by a different company? Sure seems like it. Will I be fined for that since I'm not using Mega? Just because you chose a single hauler for our convenience, I may be fined if I want to use a company I trust for the last 28 years and pay for myself. I spoke to Middletown, Rhode Island's Will Cronin, who takes care of their trash contract. He said they do not mandate their trash hauler, though most of the people do use it. It's an option. I've heard from other friends in other Rhode Island towns that this is the same. Please let me know of other towns that are mandating one trash hauler, since Portsmouth can't be the only town wanting to do this. And I'm not talking about the towns that have their trash incorporated into their taxes. And may I ask who will be overseeing and monitoring all these curbside pickup rules? Will we be creating a new department or position? If yes, how much will that cost taxpayers? And who will be handing out fines to our residents for using a different company of their choice? The police department? And to think we use our police department's time and energy to fine our residents for using a different company doesn't sound like good use of money if you ask me. I think it's fine for our town to go ahead and get better rates for the residents. This is what you did and that's great. You worked hard on it. I know all the numbers. I've been to the meetings. I've paid attention. You did it with our electricity rates and it was an option to opt out. But to mandate that we use a company that majority of our residents have dropped over the years, have smaller containers than what we have already, we'll have to pay a lot more for bulky waste, since right now with Waste Management, I'm allowed to use the Newport transfer station for 15 cents a pound. Some residents will have to pay a fee to cut their contract short, and we will no longer have the right to look for better rates over the years. And we know these rates will go up year after year after an exclusive contract. I've had Waste Management for 28 years. I pay $105 a quarter. That will be less than what any of the contracts come out at. I call every single year, I'm a pain. Maybe I'm the person who should have done the negotiating. And to pay $1 million for bins, majority of our town has Waste Management bins already. If we're being green, getting rid of all those bins and buying new ones is not green. And it would have been nice if we did another poll survey when we were talking solely about curbside pickup. Yes, our town did a survey and actually looked at it again yesterday. It was more like, what do you do? Do you go to the transfer station? Do you use curbside? How's it working? It was more to figure out, are we getting rid of the transfer station or what are we doing? It wasn't about curbside pickup. With only a couple of you on this whole board who use curbside, you didn't ask the people who have it. Majority of my neighborhood has it. It's Waste Management. They're very reliable, but that's, you guys pick somebody else. And are there any exemptions to this ordinance? Are there particular neighborhoods who are not going to be stuck with this ordinance? Are there particular individuals? if the answer is yes, I'm thinking this ordinance does not state that. I'm asking you to vote no on this ordinance for 2 reasons. First, it's a poorly written ordinance that does not cover all the situations that currently exist in Portsmouth that I just mentioned. And second, you should allow residents the freedom to make their own choice as to who they pay for when it comes to curbside service and not fine them if they decide to do so. It's called freedom of choice.
Told you how much I enjoy people reading.
Hold on, Jeff, hold on. Well, that was obviously a lot of questions, a lot of comments.
Well, I emailed them all to you October 28th, so people have had time to answer me.
Public hearing. This is where you're able to come and put your comments on the record. You know,
And they were all in writing, weren't
yeah,
they?
go ahead. Let me try to at least, you know, state some of the obvious things, which, you know, in the event of an emergency, a natural disaster, I don't think the town would be issuing fines for removal of trash and debris from the sides of the road.
But in the ordinance, it doesn't say that.
Well, I think that's kind of an extreme situation where if it's a town ordinance, then the town has the discretion to enforce, you know, during, you know, extreme events, natural disasters. So I think, you know, some of your comments are good comments, and some of them I think you were doing for emphasis to say that, you know, it's a little vague. This is not an exclusive ordinance where certain neighborhoods are protected. It would be a townwide ordinance. Individuals are not excluded. Commercial entities, condominium associations are excluded. But the ordinance is intended for all residential properties under 5 households, under what? Under 5 units, residential properties under 5 units.
Under what?
5 units.
Oh, 5 units.
5 units. So you might have, again, but you know, I can't answer all the other, you know, comments. Mr. Rayner, do you want to offer any? And between Mr. Rayner and Mr. Woodhead, I mean, this.
Well, I'm still ready over.
I know. I can stand next to your desk.
So this is for residential household, trash removal. This is not for commercial trash removal, so if you're doing construction on your house, that's considered commercial, so if someone's working on your house, you can hire anybody to bring a dumpster to your house to get rid of it. Just like 1-800 trash junk or whatever, they can come and get rid of your trash, so that's commercial rate. Contractor pick up your yard waste, that's commercial, so that's a commercial thing, so that's not a fine that you would issue.
Compost.
Okay, I'm a little confused about that, saying that a landscape is commercial or 1-800 junk is commercial, so is waste management.
But you're hiring a landscape company as a commercial company to come and do landscape work, that's a commercial business, just like we don't allow a landscape dump at our transfer station, this focus, that's why it's commercial.
But I guess I don't know the difference between 1-800 got junk and waste management then.
Yes, you do. I think you know the difference. 1-800 got junk does not drive trash trucks around municipalities picking up people's trash. They come in, it's a one-off. They don't come every week to pick up your trash.
But that's not very clear in all this.
Wow.
It's not,
No, I know, but I think I get your point.
but you know it's vague. And we're gonna leave it the way it is.
So no, maybe some additional clarifications can be amended. If we need to add a few additional definitions for clarification, I think that's a reasonable request.
Compost companies that come every week, curbside, is that exempt?
That's not part of the RFP, so
But in,
Black Earth, come by, pick up your compost, that's.
but that is
That's not part of
considered
our-
waste,
But
correct?
it's not part of the RFP that references it. Compost is not considered trash consultant.
Brian,
Can't hear.
you just talk about
It's
it.
not trash compost or trash recycling. Not part of the art.
I still find it very vague because compost is food waste, leaves, yard waste. That it's part of that, so I'm finding it very vague. The other question, maybe you can't answer this, but, what other towns in Rhode Island have an exclusive contract, and I'm not talking about the ones who pay for it in their taxes. Ones that have an RFP like us. We must have talked to other towns to get their opinions on it. I know Middletown doesn't have exclusive. I know Newport does, but it's in their taxes. What town is not in their taxes, but they have an exclusive contract where they mandate their residents pick one company?
Don't know, Ted knows that, so.
Yeah, hold on one second. Is the consultant online?
I am.
Ted, are you aware of? Are you aware of other single hauler municipalities?
As I said earlier, there's roughly 23 municipalities that have a single hauler. About 2/3 of them are a contract and not a municipal operation. I cannot answer without reviewing all background data, which ones of those are a single contract that is not covered by taxes. I can't answer that, not tonight. I certainly could find out, but I don't have that information on me. But I can say that the majority of municipalities in Rhode Island have either a municipal contract with a single hauler or a contract with a single hauler for collection. It is a minority of municipalities that have subscription collection service. I can tell you, for example, that Newport has a single hauler contract, and they don't allow I don't believe they allow other haulers to operate within the city of Newport.
And I believe it's in their taxes.
It may be, that's why I'm saying without going through the data that we collected in 2020, I can't answer that part of the question.
Mr. Yates, who was speaking before us, had a quick question. I think I know the answer. He asked if the price goes up next year, can he opt out? That would be incorrect, right? So we have this is a 5-year contract, correct?
Right.
So every year, MTG can raise the price. And as an individual who's paying for this, I have no say as to what happens, correct?
I think the cost, though, is limited to what's
CPIU, trash.
Right. what's tied.
CPIU.
What does that mean?
You do a price index.
Okay.
So it's tied to inflation.
Certain categories. So if it goes up, say the price goes up 3%, that 3% is for, not for the recycling business, just for their hauling waste. And then that gets divided by 4,000 revenue. So not everybody was priced for 3%. That's when you buy most of 4,000.
Okay, but without any competition, they can raise it to the max of whatever they can do.
No.
Going to the sewer price
Okay.
index.
I don't think I understand that yet, but that's right. Yeah, in 28 years, I've gone from $99 a quarter to $105 a quarter. So I think I did pretty well. So when we talked about a teaser rate before, it's possible for individuals to keep that teaser rate pretty much in part. Is it a pain to call every year and to talk to them? Yes. But I've done it with Cox, I did it with my old phone bill, I've done it with garbage. I posted it on Facebook 1 million times for people to call and they've gotten their rates lowered. It is a pain to do, but having no way of talking to the company, if this gets passed, I might lose out over the years. I have no say as to what company I use. I'm all for freedom, I'm all for choice, especially when I'm paying for it out of my pocket. I have spent a lot of energy and time keeping my bills low in every aspect I can. Your rate will be more than I'm paying now. I know I am a minority in this town as to how much I'm paying. I've worked very hard to do this, and to find out I'm gonna be paying more, and you think it's just a little more per year, it's not. When I do a clean out and I fill up our big truck and bring it down to the dump, and I pay like $50 to dump the whole truck, that's not gonna be the case anymore when it comes to bulky waste with this contract. I looked at the list, most items are $40, $50, $60. A mattress is $130, which I don't even understand, because when you buy a mattress, you have to pay $10 to have it recycled. I don't even know where the money goes, but it's gonna be substantial for my family. So I just wish that I could have a choice, and I've been adamant about this from day one, not just for me, for everybody. Thank you.
Hold on. Hold on.
Can you hear me? I just wanted to comment that I think some of Chris Parcella's questions could be answered. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Rayner, we are hiring a manager for this program. So there's a salary and benefit program. I believe it's $100,000 we've budgeted. Okay, so that's part of the program.
Yeah, there would be a manager. I mean, Portsmouth will be in a situation where we will be running 3 trash hauling, trash waste enterprise funds, Prudence Island, Headley Street, and Curbside. So there will be a manager hired, which will be paid for out of the enterprise funds between Headley Street and the Curbside, and that'll be factored into the price it already has.
How much?
Well, as I stated, I mean, the Curbside would be about, I think right now we'll come back December 9th, it's probably gonna be about $445. I don't know what the transfer station will be because we have to present 2 different prices. One with pay-as-you-throw, one without pay-as-you-throw. So it would probably be divided based on the number of subscribers that we think are going to be in each program. We would apportion that salary across those 2 enterprise funds.
How much is the salary?
Director Woodhead, could you address that? I don't remember what we.
77,000.
Is that what it was?
Yes.
77,000.
Okay, hold on. We're not gonna, we need to stop yelling the comments from the audience. If you want to speak, you can absolutely come up to the microphone.
Savor the trip. Obviously the question, when you bring out the salary, people want to know what the benefits are going to be. That would be the salary that employee obviously paid for out of the enterprise fund. The FICA, Social Security, taxes, 401, there's no pension, it's 401 system. And medical benefits are all rolled into those 2 enterprise funds.
Mr. Gleason?
Just one other comment. Because I asked this at the last meeting when we discussed this. And the question was, what are the other towns and cities in Rhode Island with an ordinance for curbside pickup? And you ad-libbed an answer that this has to be somebody. And eventually I got an answer from Mr. Woodhead that there weren't any. Is that correct? In other words, we discussed whether there are other communities in Rhode Island that have an ordinance mandating curbside pickup. We assumed that there were, but the answer that you get back to me was there wasn't. There wasn't any here, but we were modeling other cities around the country.
But just like our consultant said, the ones that have it in their taxes do have mandatory curbside collection, so there's those ordinances. I'm not quite sure if anybody else doesn't have in their taxes.
Right. Yeah.
I just want to clarify one thing. And my point, Mr. Gleason, when I said there has to be some that have a single hauler ordinance, because I think all along the question was, if we went to a single hauler, would it be legal? and that is, so we have it on good information and research and of course, court proceedings that it is legal. So we're not the only community that has enacted a single hauler ordinance. There's precedent for it. So, well, there's the legal case that Mr. Rayner mentioned.
The First Circuit Court of Appeals,
But it's,
which Rhode Island falls under, ruled on this in Halton Citizen Coalition versus the town of Portsmouth, or I'm sorry, the town of Holton. And where it was found that a single hauler ordinance is not a violation of somebody's property rights. So bottom line is there's a lot of legalese here, but it's not an unconstitutional taking, nor does it impermissibly impugn on contracts. So what does that mean? A single hauler ordinance would not qualify as an unconstitutional taking because it doesn't compensate private property. Rather, it regulates services within the municipality for health, safety, and logistics reasons. With regard to the comment about it does not impermissibly impugn contracts, what that means is that the court stated that the ordinance could override existing contracts between residents and other haulers without being deemed an unlawful interference. And again, the courts, particularly the First Circuit Court of Appeals, generally allow such regulatory actions because they serve a legitimate public interest, like streamlining waste collection and reducing environmental impacts, which is what we were tasked to do by the council back in.
That's another fines.
what's that?
You gotta answer Chris's question.
What was your question regarding who pays the fine?
Yes, Mr. Rayner, when in the ordinance, when it refers to fines, the fines are paid for by the hauler.
Correct. The residents would not be fined. The fines would be levied on a hauler who violates the ordinance.
No. Okay. Gonna move on to Mr. Morris.
My name's Phil Driscoll. Live at 169 Woodley Drive, and I was going to address the fines.
Could you just speak into the microphone, Mr.
I
Driscoll?
was going to address the fines each day that a violation occurred as it continues. Self-defense. Penalties, violation, doesn't say who's paying them.
It would be paid by the hauler,
Well, that, the guy by the
the company that's in violation of the ordinance.
well, that's enlightening. I wish the proposal had said that.
Well, I think we could amend it. I think we could make that
I
modification.
think that too. I just find it somewhat draconian finding people for such things. It wouldn't take long to get up to it in 3 days. $850. It says each violation shall be deemed to be a separate offense. This business of traffic, that this proposal is supposed to ameliorate. I had a chance to, if that's the right word, to travel on Equinity and Landry avenues rather regularly. And not every house has the same service. There are 40 houses down there, okay? And I estimate it takes 2 or 3 minutes for each one of the houses. If you go down there on the wrong day, you're stuck for 20 or 30 minutes, okay? And that's not with every house on the street being the same vendor. So this idea, at least in certain situations, that we're going to have environmental improvement may not be the universal case. Okay, I've been told that Water Street can be the same way, and I can tell you that Emmanuel Drive, as short as it is, they love to be right in the middle of the road. Okay, no stop. This trash pickup, does this pertain only to town accepted streets? Or does it pertain to all the residents in town?
Mr. Director, the Director Woodhead can address this more directly, but the bottom line is, it will pertain to all town streets and most, I don't know the percentage right now, of the private roadways. We have surveyed every single one of those roads with the hauler, and they have determined which roads can be serviced by the full-size truck, which roads would require a smaller vehicle, which they would have to purchase. And then there are some roads that either are inaccessible or slightly accessible, so that the residents would have to move the trash bins to where the hauler would be able to pick it up, which would be the same case for them right now. I suspect that many of those people are probably using the transfer station.
Is there any particular reason that this information has not been shared with the public? So that the residents of these particular areas will be aware of what's going on?
Well, we don't know what the routes are because nobody's signed up yet, but certainly we can get more information out there so that people will understand what roads are readily serviceable. Absolutely.
But we know now what roads are regularly serviceable and what roads are not regularly serviceable. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's relatively recent occurrence. I mean, this is, we're working very hard to get this up and running so that we can advertise and get people signed up starting in January so that we can have enough time to plan out the routes, get the bins and everything on track for January 1st. So your comment is succinct and it's loud and clear. And as soon as we know the exact list of all those roads, I suspect before December 9th, we'll be able to publish that.
And how long have we been working on this process?
We've been working on this for years.
And why are we just now getting ready to announce to some people that they may not be able to have curbside?
Well, since the RFP has been awarded, this has been a work in progress, trying to negotiate exactly how this was going to be implemented, what was going to have to be in the ordinance, what the logistics were going to be related to the bins, and an actual tour of every single road and household in Portsmouth. So yes, this is taking some time.
So this contractor bid on this work would not knowing the extent of the job, is that correct?
No.
No, not at all. This contract was bid on all town roads in Portsmouth. And we have enforced and negotiated with the contractor to ensure that to the greatest extent possible that private roads would be included.
I hear all town, then I hear private roads. We don't seem to really pin that down this particular point in time.
Well, it's the exact same situation that exists right now. If somebody is living on a road that is inaccessible by a hauler, they won't get hauled service. We're doing everything we can to ensure that to the greatest extent possible, those people will be able to partake in the program.
Do we have a date that when those people will be told that, because they're gonna have to get their own curbside guy.
Well, that's the point. They won't be able to.
So some people will not be able to get curbside, is that correct?
There's, of course, and those are the same households that can't get it now because the trucks can't get to where they are.
Without making us, giving an effort.
Mr. President,
I can find, I guess it's, thank you.
oh, okay.
So,
No, that's,
so
let Mr. Woodhead.
Council. So on private roads, it's a little tricky on private roads because some of the private roads are not maintained very well. We have low-hanging fruit. So they will have to be addressed when those people sign up for it. It's not that we will not refuse them. They might have to bring it towards a public roadway if they have to. we're trying to make every effort to go down all these roadways, just so we can pick it up, they might have to back down, because some of these roadways, there's no turnarounds, especially on town roads, there's no turnarounds. They might have to back down, and put all the barrels on one side of the road compared to on both sides. I appreciate that this work is now being done. I thought that it would have been done a long time ago.
Well, it's been a process, Mr. Driscoll, but we're not just starting it. There's been a lot of effort. And again, we're not recreating the wheel with some of the haulers, because if they're currently providing service on these roads, if they're backing down those roads now, they're going to continue to back down. We're not going to require someone to back down a road that they weren't backing down. If they pulled in and they were backing out, because some of the roads, they're dead ends. There's not a cul-de-sac. There's no place for that truck to turn around.
I'm very well aware of it.
Okay, so we're not creating a situation that doesn't already exist.
No,
is
but you
what I'm
have to
getting at.
service the existing situation.
From what Mr. Woodhead was saying, is if they're currently getting service from a curbside hauler, then in all likelihood, they'll continue to be able to get service from the hauler.
The other remaining thing is that people have signed some sort of a contract for a year or 2 years or some period of time. Okay. How will that be handled? Will they be getting, the town be giving them a refund on that particular issue? Will they continue with the existing hauler that they've made arrangements with, or will it, and the hauler will be subject to a fine?
I believe under the ordinance, Mr. Rayner, those contracts would be nullified with the ordinance, because the town has that jurisdiction.
So, and the contract is, you've entered into a contract with somebody for a year, okay? That man's gonna want those proceeds for a year.
What do you think he paid in advance? Is that what
You
you're saying?
signed an agreement that you're gonna pay a man $100 a month for 12 months. Okay? And then you go to him and you say to him, I'm not gonna pay you anymore.
Well, I believe, and let me just finish this, because Mr. Rayner, and correct me if I'm wrong.
That's what I was stating before. As the First Circuit Court of Appeals has ruled, an ordinance like this does not impermissibly impugn contracts. And what that means is this ordinance, if enacted, could override existing contracts between residents and other haulers, and they could not be held liable for, because this is not deemed as an unlawful interference. So in other words, the court upholds the town's right, the municipal's right to enact an ordinance which would supersede any contract that a private individual has with other haulers. So no, or yes, the ordinance trumps the contract that person.
And is the homeowner still liable to the contract?
No.
That's an interesting concept, okay? That we could go and enter into a contract, and the government can come along and say, no more.
Well, man,
Let's keep it real simple.
And short.
Keep it
you
short.
and I have a little bit of a history. And you may remember that the water board, which you're very closely associated with, which by the way is a monopoly, it is the only one, just like electricity, just like gas, they're the only ones allowed in, okay? The water board used to promise to give people water. They get a certificate of availability. And then the water board decided that we don't have any water. So what did the water board do? Do you remember?
Oh, I remember very well, Mr. Levesque.
That's right. I sued you over it. You said, no, we're not gonna give you water.
And did you?
All right, it's a separate issue.
No,
We're done. We're done.
Why not?
Because
It's a
it's got nothing to do with tonight.
It's got nothing to
It's got nothing to do with tonight's meeting. So let's stop, please. Mr. Driscoll, thank you. I'm tired of my antics too.
No, I just want to stay on point of the ordinance.
Thank you.
Let's move on.
Yes.
Me.
I'm thanking Mr. Driscoll for being the bigger man and walking away.
Oh,
You didn't have clients screwed by his actions.
I know.
I'm not gonna get yelled at anyway.
Why would you get yelled at?
I don't know. It started that way. Anyways,
Feel-
Mary McDowell,
feel free.
94 Point Road, Mr. President, and council members. And some of the things that I'm going to say tonight have been said, but I think it's important to reiterate some of them. At the last meeting when the ordinance was mentioned, I asked a question on how the ordinance was developed, and it was stated that the consultant, along with the town solicitor, Mr. Rayner, worked on it. It was stated that this ordinance was based on other towns' ordinances dealing with the same issues as us. I went back to research this, and I could not find one community in Rhode Island who has such an ordinance. I guess I would like to ask the consultant, is that a fact? Is there no community in Rhode Island who has such an ordinance?
I believe the consultant stated that he doesn't have that information to know which ones are in the tax or not in the taxes, is what he stated. The question has been asked, and he did give you an answer that he doesn't know. The issue about the ordinance and coming from not starting from scratch, that was the whole process. I don't think we ever said that this was done in another Rhode Island community. But the single hauler concept has been around, and that's what, and I think that was okay, if we want to split hairs, we didn't say Rhode Island. I think the intent was that there is precedent for this, and that's always been a concern, at least for some members on the council, that this was legal. We believe it is to be legal, and that's why we're trying to move forward with it.
But don't you think it says something if there is no other community in Rhode Island that has an ordinance that mandates people like this?
We're leading the charge.
I can't speak for what other communities do. I mean, I don't think anybody can.
Okay.
It's you're give your opinion. And that's what so.
Okay.
But there are other communities that mandate a single hauler. Most of them, it's in the taxes. We cannot put park curbside into the taxes because we have a transfer station. And it would be unfair to people who use the transfer station if we tried to put curbside into the tax base. Likewise, it's been suggested at some previous hearings that we put the transfer station into the tax base, which would be equally unfair since people who can't use the transfer station should not be made to pay for it. So our situation is not like most other towns because we have a standing two different ways of getting rid of our trash, both of which we are committed to maintaining. So we can't put either of them in the tax base.
Thank you. So I found that other towns in Rhode Island, including Middletown, our neighbor, who have a single hauler contract, but residents are not mandated to use that hauler. Going to a single hauler route in order to pass savings on to the residents, as well as reduce wear and tear on roads, et cetera, is definitely a good idea. But mandating residents to buy in is not a good idea. I'm sure if Middletown thought it was, they would have passed a similar ordinance. I suspect that one of the reasons there was no need for this is that they knew that the price would be so good that it would be a no-brainer for the residents and they would sign up. Have we put the cart before the horse in not having all the reasonable data before we did our RFP? At this point, do we have the data of what the pricing would be if 4,000 people signed up, if 5,500 people signed up, if we don't use the pay-as-you-throw bags, if we don't have to pay for the bins because we have a grant? We don't have that information yet. I'm hearing that we'll have it in December, but this is information I believe should have been already discussed. All these scenarios should be presented to the residents before we even entertain such a drastic move as to take away choice from our people. Money talks. If the deal is great, people will buy in. Have confidence in that. If people don't buy in, then maybe you have to figure out why. I'm asking you, please do not pass this ordinance at this particular time because it seems we do not have the information we need. I'll end by saying this, back on May 22nd, 2023, the council voted for a single hauler to serve Portsmouth. Mr. Levesque made the motion, Ms. Abbott seconded it. The motion passed 4 in favor, 2 against, and 1 abstention. So you see, back then, even, it wasn't a slam dunk for an exclusive single hauler. In fact, I look at a vote of 4 to 3 as not an overwhelming majority. I bring this up because not even the council was convinced then that we were going in the right direction. I'm asking you, I'd like us to just stop and take a big, deep breath and ask ourselves, do we really need this ordinance? And if you really think we do, are we ready for this ordinance, the way it's written?
I'm going to address a couple of questions, or a couple of statements or questions that you made there. One, there are no pay-as-you-go bags. The chart that was put out at the last, or 2 meetings ago with curbside costs was $442. That's assuming 64 gallons for waste and 96 for recyclables. My rough math tonight, if we went all 96, would add another $3. So that would put us at, or excuse me, $6, which would put us about $448 with 4,000 households. If there's 5,000 households, it's less. If there's $3,500 households, it's more. If we do happen to get a grant to help pay for the barrels, it's less. If we find other funding sources to help limit the cost of the barrels, it's less. The reason for purchasing the barrels is that in 5 years, if we're not happy with MEGA, they go away and we still have the barrels in everybody's household. And I would disagree with Dr. Ryan a little bit. I would like to work towards getting all of this into the taxes, but a cost of $1.75 million is just about what we can raise taxes each year to fund every increase in town, schools, fire, police, DPW. So it can't be done all at once. Although I'm a Band-Aid guy, can't do it in this space. You can't just rip it off and do it. So it will take time.
I understand that, but you started off with a figure of 442, let's say, you added $3 here. And then you gave 3 or 4 different scenarios that would bring the price down. Don't you think we should have that right now? Don't you think we should have that information so that people can have all the facts?
But those numbers have nothing to do with the ordinance. That's just gonna get the price.
Well, I understand that, but I had to bring it up because.
I understand, but remember, the RFP was put out with the expectation that the winner of the RFP, whether it be Waste Management, Republic, I'm gonna miss one, MEGA, there was a 4th one. Zero Waste. If all 4 of those bid on it with the knowledge that they would be the exclusive contract, and that the town would enact an ordinance that was in the RFP that was put out back in January and awarded in May. The final step is to award, to put out the ordinance that gives you the exclusive contract to that vendor. I can promise you, we were working tirelessly to figure out a way to get it as cheap as possible.
Mr. President, Mrs. McDowell, I just want to mention the fact that you mentioned the 23 town council meeting, which I made a motion. I would tell you that in May of 2024, that is a couple of months ago, we had the motion to adopt the RFP. The motion was made, seconded, it was 6-0. The only person who didn't vote for it was Mr. Katzman, who had left the council. So everybody was on board at that particular time. I also want to point out, because I think it's been coming up and it's a little confusing, this ordinance affects the haulers. Now, if you as a citizen interfere with the haulers, you may be subject to a penalty of some kind. But basically, it's if you come in and start doing trash hauling business in the town of Portsmouth, you're in violation, and those are the fines and assessments that we can make. Thank you.
But your scenario is a matter of semantics, you know, you're going to find the hauler, but let's say I want the hauler to come. You know, I mean, it's a matter of semantics, so. Anyways, and it's all about
But
choice.
it's not a matter of semantics, man. The hauler would have to pay. If he tried or she tried to turn around and get the customer to pay, they wouldn't have a leg to stand on. So that would not work, okay? And again, you can propose scenarios. We could probably tell you, look, if we get 6,000 people to sign up, it's only going to cost you 50 cents. We don't know that. Okay, there are things in this world that are not knowable. When you go through the process, you find out. We have a lot of reason to expect certain things to happen because that's everybody else's experience. But we don't know if the good people of the town of Portsmouth might do it all differently. Because we've been doing it all differently since 1638.
There's been a lot of amendments that have been talked about on this ordinance, so I would just suggest, instead of making these amendments and pushing this ordinance through, make the changes and come back.
I don't see any, I have not heard one reason to change this ordinance, one reason.
Mr. President, if I may, before
Hold on, Mr. Rayner needs to make a comment. Mr. Rayner?
Yeah, with respect to that comment, I think Ms. Carcel brought up an excellent point. There is confusion in section 32643. So the suggestion that I would ask the council to consider is that it is confusing the phrase generator of residential waste. We would just eliminate that phrase. So the sentence would read, it shall be unlawful for any commercial waste hauler. Generator of residential waste is confusing, and it could be perceived that implies that we're going to define residents, and that's not the intent of this ordinance at all. So I would suggest that you remove that section from that proposed ordinance.
Mr. President, if I may,
I just want to make sure Mr. Rayner finished.
which is,
Yeah, I'm done. Thank
okay,
you.
I have been going back and forth about that. And when it comes to one, I do believe we need to just clear definitions on certain things, but the only section of this entire ordinance that has any teeth is that prohibited act section, and that is the entire ordinance. So if we start amending that, and given I'm not going on one side or the other, I'm just clearly viewing it on what is written alone, you would lose the exclusivity language. That's the intent of the ordinance. You don't have the intent of exclusivity anywhere else in this.
But the only part that's being removed is the section that talks about the generator of residential waste, which would be the homeowner. So it still has the exclusivity towards MTG.
It's unlawful for any commercial waste hauler.
So that section would remain, just those
Yeah.
words, generator of waste, which could be interpreted as a resident who's generating waste. We would just remove those words, so the sentence would read, it shall be unlawful for any commercial waste hauler, and then it continues on from there. That would just be my suggestion.
And then that would also remove the tie-in with the fines below, that theoretically a generator of waste, residential waste could be fined. It would just go now directly to either a waste hauler or other person or entity that engaged to participate in curbside collection. So a curbside collection, a commercial hauler or Johnny come lately who wants to start picking up trash at people's houses would be the persons or companies subject to fine, not the homeowner.
I get that portion, but what you're trying to do in an exclusivity act is to prohibit an individual to engage in a contract with an individual hauler outside of the exclusivity contract with the town. By removing the individual residential homeowner, now you're removing them from the exclusion.
Well, but if you're banning the removal of waste by a commercial hauler, it doesn't really matter what the individual wants to contract with. If you are finding the hauler and you're telling the ordinance to say that the hauler cannot remove the waste, then the individual cannot be making a contract with that person. So the enforcement is still there. It's just that you're making clear who's actually going to be fined.
If I might, Councilman, I would prefer not to eliminate that language, but it does, I think, clarify at least the thought that that might be a problem, that we're dealing with the generator of the residential waste. But if it is removed, it does not impact at all the rest of the ordinance. And
No, it
the
doesn't.
rest of the ordinance would be fine, enforceable, and perhaps clarify some of the concerns folks have.
Yeah, I think the administrator's suggestion is a good one, and I think that would solve the problem.
Okay. I just wanted to make a note here.
Hi, good evening. My name is Joey Whittington. I live on 265 Prospect Lane, which is actually a private way. I don't get any service from the town or anything, taking care of our own road maintenance, etc. We used Waste Management in the past. They weren't able to keep up. This was several years ago. They weren't timely, trash would sit. So we brought Mega down. Mega, I don't know how to say it. They came, they dropped off barrels, and as we were going out of the driveway to go on vacation, they came to take the barrels back and said they couldn't make it down our road. So one waste management company could, the other one couldn't. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm new to this game as far as town council. This is the first time I've ever showed up. I can assure you that I do not want to drag my barrels up the private way. It is a lengthy road, one that I've paid to pave, one that I've paid to plow. It is my choice to live on that road. I would like to understand if this particular company is going to be able to come down my road, given that one has been able to, one has not been able to. And with that said, I use the town dump. So I have a problem with that. I know some people don't want the dump. I like the dump. I like to go there and get rid of my trash. The pickup truck, it's easy. My son does it. But the reality is that I don't know if there's going to be an increase in the town dump. And if I don't know what it's going to cost to have this mandate, and if I don't know if that mandate, those companies can come down my road, I'm kind of really uninformed. I don't know how to make a decision. So that's why I'm here. I don't think I'm gonna get my 19-year-old son to drag the barrel up to the top of the road. So if I'm missing something, because this really is my first time, and it was a Facebook post, and I appreciate that because I wish there were more people here to discuss this. It sounds like there are a lot of question marks. Personally, don't do well with question marks in my life. I try to avoid them and try to turn them from questions into sentences with specifics as best as I can. So I don't know how to do that tonight, and that's why I'm here.
So are you saying that you're using the transfer station right now?
I am.
And you can continue to do so?
I will, however,
Cool.
I don't know. If
And
it's gonna-
this ordinance doesn't apply to you?
Wow.
No. That's apply to me, actually.
Well, if you're using the transfer station, you
Okay, but
are.
so let me ask you a question then, sir. if I decide I don't want to use the transfer station, can you tell me right now whether or not this company is gonna come down
That,
my road?
yeah, no one can tell you that, because
Okay, so then it
their own
doesn't,
experience.
but it doesn't.
Let me try to
So I
redirect.
think it's a bit rude for you to tell me that me standing there as a citizen of.
Jody, but why would you want to switch from the transfer station when you know you can use it to a hauler where you're not sure if they'll come or not?
But I'm here to asking the
Alright.
council,
Okay.
will they come?
Okay.
Okay,
Maybe I don't, maybe I'm getting rid of my pickup truck next week.
let me redirect.
Yes, please.
So December 9th
Okay.
was when I think both costs will be presented. So we are hearing right now that the curbside is around 442. The transfer station, we received those bids and they're going through the process right now. And they should have that ready for the December 9th meeting. So with the enterprise fund, there's always, like you heard, we make some assumptions to go in based on a number of users. And that's how we lock in for the year. So the question about the rates will be December 9th. The issue about your street and whether or not you had one hauler that could go down and another hauler couldn't go down.
Or chose not to go down.
Yeah,
I don't
chose
know.
not
They
to go
brought
down.
the barrels and then they
Right.
said they couldn't come down. So I don't know if because they didn't have a competent driver. I don't know. We never really got an answer.
Small enough truck.
Mr. Woodhead, do you know if that road was evaluated or?
If it was, I'm not quite sure what they came up with, I don't want to say yes or no, but we did go down Prospect Lane, bottom section, we did bring the mega down there, and we'll have that answer for you. So, okay. Just people on private roads, so they have to be aware of it too. When it snows, if the road's not plowed out, and they're coming down that roadway, they're not driving down a private roadway that's not plowed. So
Maybe you
it
can
might
call
be-
me then.
Right?
Maybe you guys can send a plow truck down. I don't know if you know what I mean. Like
But
it's a trade-off.
it'll just have to be rescheduled.
Right.
But there are certain,
But that's the same situation for any hauler that is going down a private road.
Right, but if you're gonna mandate that so let's just say that the town
No.
does decide at some point in the next, say, 5 years, because it sounds like that's the mandate window. If the town does do away with the town. You're telling me for sure it won't be gone in 5 years.
We can't predict.
We can't.
So that's what I mean.
No, but I mean,
Right,
that's
so here we
hypothetical.
go. So I think it's fair that we have questions.
like on December 9th, again, costs will be presented. The issue about whether trucks can come, it sounds like there's at least been some provision where they're in the contract where they're gonna service those, private roads. The issue though, it's gonna be within private roads during bad weather, storms, if the road is not plowed, whether you have, whether you've got your hauler now, they don't plow the road, they're probably not getting down. So I think that's.
That makes
kind of-
sense. I
that makes
can-
sense. So I think the intent is that get a truck down there. Smaller. That's what the intent is, like, maximize.
And you, so the question would be, if they went down and passed your driveway. It's still on the side driveway there, you come down, you're at the bottom and there's a driveway off the side. So
Yeah, so,
it's mostly, for me, it's mostly that very. Hopefully, smaller truck. Or along the road. And these are going to be direct attention to paragraph C of the ordinance. Finding town council finds someone and so forth. Days of the week resulting in unnecessary traffic, public safety risks, etc. Are there empirical studies with numbers showing the metrics? Now, once upon a time, once I practiced that function, everybody done the metrics, people cost. Tax that curbside collections. So the other problem is that's for him, that we have some cost to put into the tax base immediately. It's very high. So we difficult once you try to amortize it for years. But again, we still have the problem that as long as some people, sizable number of people will not be using curbside, they'll continue to use the transfer station. It's unfair to tax them for a service they don't use. I understand, but it seems to me how takes on curbside organically and eliminate the transfer station. But we did that so many times. Right. Some people just like the transfer station. Yeah. Yeah. So it would be nice to see some empirical data on which. You're asking if bought two trucks and ran around. But how much does it cost? How would that affect our taxes? How does that figure out?
I can plug in right there. Yeah, power, but I can't get this. You connect to the camera.
That's key, that's exactly what more than per house. Control back taxes, you might earn more than stuff. So it's a great falling program on the taxes. Also, sir, you mentioned closing the train. That was the original harbor route, so a lot of people didn't want to do that. I understand that people always legitimately say, you know, what is the evidence you have for that particular thing? I'm going to suggest to you saying that certain things are so obvious that you really don't need to study. And having trucks going up and down the road, big old trucks, okay, multiple trucks, maybe going down a long road, picking up one, and then another truck comes down the next day picking up two. I don't really think you need to be, as they used to say, a rocket scientist to know that that's going to be a certain amount of problem to your environment. Now, one of the things that comes up in this conversation, and you mentioned it, should somebody be the scapegoat? Guess what? We're in an existential crisis in this world. Okay, climate change is a real factor. And people keep saying, well, I don't want to do it over here, do it over there. Well, if we all don't start addressing it, quite frankly, we may actually already be too late. But it's got to be addressed, and quite frankly, it's got to be addressed by every community. And I don't have any hope that it's going to be addressed in Washington.
If you pass this ordinance tonight, and you're gonna hold us accountable by fines if we don't follow the rules, are there similar rules for mega?
The fines are for haulers outside of data if they come to town. They're not legal. Legal will be held to the letter of the contract, which is a better bargaining chip. And I know a lot of people had legal before. I know people have switched from Mega, switched from Waste Management to Mega, the Republic, the Waste Innovations, and all the other iterations that there are. We have a $1.7 million or $1.5 million bargaining chip. It's a lot better than you bring about all. So, and I don't have a cure for that. I just say that. I have an idea. The only town around us locally that I know of that do their own pickup in Bristol. I think Barrington do it as well as Bristol. East Providence has made that. Town has the overall cost, the long-term cost of doing it yourself, it's cheaper for somebody else to own a truck. And for them to pay the wages, the retention, the benefits.
What's the mechanism if the trash is not picked up? How does it individual?
It's phone call, it's the same mechanism that if your street doesn't get plowed, you're going to have to hire another person. Yeah. As mentioned earlier, just like we have our wastewater manager who handles our septic ordinance, there will be
Somebody must have kicked it over there.
trash manager who handles all of things. Yes, waste curbside transfer station and curbside.
No, because that's gonna open another can of worms, because like other folks here, I started off with waste management until my bill went to $750. And I switched to wind waste, and now they're started at $432 and I'm up to $540. So, and then there was one time that I had a broomstick sticking out of the trash can and they wouldn't fix it. They had to break the broomstick back, but now I know it would. Don't do that. You don't have to do it. It's ready to do it. Staff are gonna go down. It's gonna be a learning curve for all. What if maybe in 3 years decides to hang it out with those other things? What then? Do you go with somebody else? And what happens if you? Not gonna go out of business. If they go out of business, because they don't want. The trash companies don't go out of business.
Even if they do, would hope that they don't go. Quite frankly, we could put them in receivership, we could have them still operating while we scramble to get another contractor. We could protect ourselves in our citizens. And we would be able to do that with court help if need be. Otherwise, just hopefully they would give us a warning.
No, they can hear it. And they can hear it.
They can hear it. There's no video.
Folks at home, you can hear now? Don't be worried, Chris. Go ahead. Hi, Thomas is free. I didn't do it before. Is that in mid-December, I'll be given two choices, either go with a curbside vendor or use a transfer station. Is that correct? So I still have the option of having a viable transfer station. Good. Comment. I'm very pleased with the operation of the transfer station. All the staff are extremely helpful. I have some problems, and they're always able to help. This last 2 weeks, I've made 40 trips to my tree leaves. I have one option to cut down 7 trees, which is probably against the global warming guide. But I still need, I don't think a trash hauler would be willing to take 40 or 50 bags of leaves every week. So I thought it was on station. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, 53 weeks ago. I heard there's a job opening. I think you should talk to my wife. Yeah, the job opening for the transfer coordinator, 75,000. You should talk to her. You should talk to her. So, I have, I just been listening. I didn't have anything prepared. I just been taking some notes. This particular case, it was the trash contract part of the package. Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. I know that the issue is the same. They enacted it as an exclusive hauler ordinance. Prior to that, they had a subscription-based service, which is what we have right now. And that this went to the First Circuit Court of Appeals, which ruled that the ordinance wasn't.
So, okay, so we don't know. It might matter. I think I would have liked to know that. But, I mean, Mr. President, it's not true. But if it was in the tax rate, then wouldn't the municipality have to have paid $35. Yes, I do. I hear that. Just want their bags up that and don't go back and get it. Fair. I care about a lot of trash. My question was answered. I just want to know if I'm ready to protect. If I know I'm ready to protect, the trash company are ready. It's an enterprise fund, just like charity. They pay for it, they pay for it. Now, I want to fit the argument that because of the discussion today about the transfer station and the discussion about bringing back about 15 years ago, 17 years ago, it was in the past. It was a vote. Because we said we keep it open as long as it's bigger. But exactly. That's it's going to, we're not promising, all right, because it's functionally obsolete. If you put it back, you can't put it back. Well, if you start doing something now about it, like you want to put it back all at once, you took it out little by little. What you need to do is lower the sticker price and subsidize the portion of the taxes, so you put it all back in the tax. And then here's my opinion, get out of the curbside. Even then, when we had it in the taxes, my household paid for waste management. Because I paid my taxes, paid for the transfer station. I barely use it. But I preferred curbside. So when you say, well, we don't know what will be good, we can't put it back in taxes, because curbside people will want to use curbside, and the other one, well, stop messing with the curbside. Why do you want to get the market share with even more? The transfer station is not big enough to handle the population of Portsmouth that exists today. It could 30 years ago, but not. That's maybe we can go back to the bigger transfer station. It's not to build it. I would that. By the way, I agree with 1,000% about how we address the problem, and the fact that they detrimental. By the way, I also agree that but the concept of family, which almost everybody will have a different view of, but the concept of fairness suggested that the town ought to get out of subsidizing the transfer station because many people were paying taxes and not using it, like you indicated that you were. Okay, and so people said, look, those who use it will pay for it. That was the concept. I wasn't there, but I understood the concept. And everybody individually would go out and hire their own compact trash hauler if they did not want to use the compact. Again, about 5 years ago, the idea came up that we could save citizens money. We could improve
Okay. I realize that.
MPG coming out of CCOM, what's your deal?
Sir, you're pointing out one individual case where if in fact, look, if they get the whole contract for the town, you think they might actually move maybe some of the trucks down closer? They could. All right, so I mean, the thing is, I agree with you in a pure logistical sense right now. It doesn't make that much sense for the trucks to come all this way. But I mean, when you go by what used to be Lenny's and see all the buses there, the buses are there because that's where they're needed. Trash haulers will put a truck where it's needed to save them money, which is what they do. That's what a private enterprise does.
Sure, and they might do that.
That's right.
Point out that
They might not.
they don't. Middletown struck a decent deal. That's why they felt they didn't need an ordinance like this. What's setting a bad taste here, I did not hear one positive comment. I heard positive comments about the town going in and trying to get a better deal. For a lot of people, it's gonna work and they'll sign up. The problem I hear tonight here is we don't like the ordinance. We don't like the ordinance because we feel like you're trying to control our choice. So if you went to a trash hauler and you signed an exclusive contract, you should have done that. Because in capitalism, if you feel that your business has the best price and the best service, you shouldn't be afraid of are the customers gonna come? They're gonna come in droves. If the price is truly the lowest, that's why Middletown landed the deal they did. They got a good deal and most of the people felt, I'm gonna go. By the way, I'm just gonna say, I do think you got a decent deal. There are a lot of people's gonna save money. I think a lot of people will pick your deal. I don't understand why the ordinance is. Right, and here's the other thing that could happen. Waste management, as you heard, for some of us that know how to negotiate and are a pain in the butt, we got a slightly better deal. Not by a lot, but we do. We have a slightly better deal. However, I have a feeling that the minute you bring this in, our deal's gonna dry up. Why? Because a lot of people are paying the $800 Waste Management are gonna jump over. Waste Management might all on its own. This is called capitalism. You don't need to meddle in it. Waste Management might all on its own decide we're pulling out of Portsmouth. It's not worth our time. I'm just explaining here that you're putting an ordinance in place that nobody wants. Nobody here spoke one word of positivity about the ordinance. Please don't put it in. That's all.
Any further? Okay.
Hey, how we doing?
Pretty good yourself.
All right, how you doing? I know, how you doing? Well, my name is Norm Bradley. I live on 28 Cromwell Drive. I do, excuse me, a couple weeks ago, when I knew this was coming up on the agenda, I tried to get a copy of the contract document associated with it. And called the finance individual, and she pointed me over to Public Works. And he pointed me to the 13 May. So I looked at that and I read it pretty closely, but I may have missed a few things. But how were the 17 exceptions and provisions incorporated in the contract by me?
What 17 exceptions?
Right at the beginning, they said. Yeah, exception to the RFP.
No idea what he's doing tomorrow.
Mr.
So there was a seven-city contract for both Waste Management and Mega. Mega's was mostly just legal exceptions to the contract that we reviewed it with our solicitor and we agreed. Once say the exact number, I think there was like 4 of them that we agreed to, and there was some that we didn't agree to.
So I find that unusual because having worked in the contracting industry for 28 years, normally you have a conformed contract that you sign. And that document signed by both parties includes those exceptions. There was one for and a new definition of exclusivity. So I find that to be pretty sloppy, not to have a contract document signed by both parties that's reviewable by this group here. So, and I didn't see a sliding scale in the contract or in the RFP for, a sliding scale for reduction if it goes over 4,000. Is that?
No.
There wasn't, so.
If I can just address that real quick, that the contract is for the operation. The price that the resident will pay is to the enterprise fund, and that's based on all the factors that have to be, the amortization of the barrel, so on and so forth, and the number of people that sign up. So what the biggest factor that controls the sliding scale, as you call it, would be the number of people that sign up. We have to get the program started, and as we talked about earlier, 4,000 was the number that we picked. That will dictate what the price is going to be. If more people sign up, just like the transfer station, the price will be lower the following year. If less people sign up, then that will have to be recorded as a deficit and captured in the price for the sticker price the following year. So that's the contract or the RFP, that there's no sliding scale. What they bid, that's the price that we have to pay them.
So what would prevent them from not, if 5,000 people sign up the next year and they give you this year's rate plus the CPIU, and they say it's now 470, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Well, their cost is gonna be the CPIU plus, times the, I gotta look at their number again. Pardon me. Refuge cost to pick up is roughly $50,000 a month, plus recycling costs each month is $50,000 a month. That would be the number that would go up. That cost, if it goes up by 3%, so let's round up, say it's $103,000 a month, it'll go to $100,000 a month, it goes to $103,000 a month. That cost gets spread out along all the people who sign up for that sticker.
So that they would adjust the price.
Each year, just like a transfer station, new costs come out, that sticker cost gets changed.
Excuse me. The whole thing, the whole problem with this is the fact that you have, it's a mandate, and it's not part of the tax base. That seems to be the biggest issue. And for, the 39 times you hired a consultant, I would have thought that would have been the first thing you'd have been trying to research, is why or who else has that type of scheme set up. And
That was the guy up there,
okay.
the one that, I'm sorry. This goes back about 5 years, and there was a white paper done, there was a bunch of analysis done talking about moving to curbside. I mean, the whole field was looked at in terms of what the council should do. We didn't just go off on a luck.
Well, I think I understand that, Mr. Lewis, but
It's a little back, but that's okay. Thank you.
What I'm saying is why the research should have been done to know who else in the 39 communities of Rhode Island have a scheme set up where it's a mandate that's not part of the tax base.
It's not a scheme. I think the question becomes.
Go ahead.
No, the issue about, is it legal? And we feel that based on the
Our first court, yeah, I heard.
right, so based on the advice of our legal counsel, that it is legal.
But they, excuse me, I'm not interrupting either, but they were asked that question 2 people ago. The fellow says, who else, or is that case with similar apples to apples, where it's not the tax base, it's a mandate for a town, and they said they don't know.
Well, here's the thing, we're going down the process. It's been very well, documented all along, even through the RFP process, that at the end of the day, we were gonna move forward with a single hauler ordinance. I mean, we've been saying that since the very beginning. Some of the early questions that came out, is it legal?
Bless you.
The answer is yes. So if it is legal, it's not a scheme, we're not trying to, it's not a shell game. We felt like this would be the best model to move forward in order to get better pricing. Because what happened a few years ago was you had the different curbside vendors coming in and undercutting everybody. And then you did see some quality of service. You know why? Because they may have had, 100 or 200 homes, whereas now you're talking about 4,000 homes. So you would think that as Mr. Hamilton said, the more customers, the more money that's at stake for them. So we do expect that they're going to honor their contract. We do expect that they're going to provide good service. And that's our job, to manage the contract and keep them in line. But, that's what the contract's for. There's a lot of questions. Some of these questions, I mean, these questions are being asked, you know full well we don't have the answers. I mean, because some of them are very minutia points. Some of them are big picture about, natural disasters. But what we tried to do was come up with a mechanism to honestly best price for citizens for curbside. And that's, we were very upfront with that, 2 enterprise systems, because there's always been this fear, we're trying to close the transfer station. We're not. We're trying to keep it open, but if you don't have enough users, then the costs are going to go through the roof. The transfer station is more at risk than curbside. I mean, that's the reality, because there's maybe 1,800 folks that are diehards that like to use the transfer station, and they will absorb those costs and continue to use the transfer station. And that's fine. And that's the choice. The problem with the curbside was when you only have, if you have 4 vendors servicing the town, some do a good job, some do not do a good job. We heard it all about barrels being on the side of the road, trash blowing around in neighborhoods. We've sat here or in the high school for hours during public meetings, vetting a lot of these concerns. And so I think it's been said, we put our best foot forward. We're not trying to, create a scheme. We're not trying to do something that we think is illegal. We feel like this is the best foot forward to try and get best pricing we can for the citizens of Portsmouth.
But I do have one question. You said it's legal, but a minute ago, your counsel down the other end said he's not sure if it's apples to apples. We
feel, and the only way we're gonna know is if someone sues us.
And I can see that happen.
Okay.
I can see, I have waste management currently and I'm under, I think $92 a month. And I'm at
$92 a month.
No, I'm sorry, not a month. It's $92 a quarter, sorry. And we've had a good service. I did take the teaser weight rate and it went up about $4. But it's well under the 442, you guys.
442 for the year. So yes, so you're just under 400. But again, there's probably different things factored in with yard waste and other elements that are in 15 bags.
Yeah, they'll come, if you have yard waste, but anyhow, that's all I have. I appreciate it if you don't do this ordinance tonight. You yourself said when the one lady who came up second, I think, I'm not sure what her name is, you said there's a handful of things that should be changed.
There was clarification. It might be.
It's not Mr. Levesque, you said, you don't have to change anything, it's ready to go. But your board president said.
Nobody listens to me. Don't worry about
There
it.
you go.
I think the issue was maybe some clarifications, but the substance of the ordinance really comes down to the teeth of it is the questions were, who's going to be paying the fines? The fines are paid by the haulers that are in violation. We do have to just address the issue about, is it unlawful for any generator of residential waste? I think that's probably what the council has to wrestle with. The other things might be additional definitions, but I don't think that's gonna move the needle on the ordinance.
The definition of exclusivity, what does that mean?
The prohibited acts,
No, exclusivity. What's the definition of exclusivity in the ordinance? I didn't read that one.
it's because it's not in there.
That to the exclusion of everybody else, that nobody else may participate.
You're a lawyer, right?
And I was an English major.
Hold on,
Oh
hold
my
on.
God.
So anyhow, Norm, section G, in the ordinance, on May 13th, 2024, the town council voted to award the exclusive contract for curbside collection and transport of residential waste, recyclables, and yard waste and bulky waste to MTG, as TB doing business as needed. So that's where the exclusivity is.
I think I understand that part. That's between you and MTG.
Right.
What about me? Do I have an exclusive? Do I have to be exclusive to you?
Theoretically, this protects everybody in the town. This agreement is between haulers in the town, both the agreement and the ordinance is between the haulers in the town as we pursue the ability of the community to get a better deal. But the punishments of the ordinance are only supposed to be for haulers and people who interfere with them. And the contract is between specifically the town and the hauler. Okay. So in a sense, other than the fact that as a body politic, you may be responsible if we mess up, it is between the town as an entity and the hauler, not between you and the hauler.
That's it.
All right, good job.
Thank you.
Grave now.
This isn't a bond issue, Mr. Green. Because I'm not mature.
Tom Green, 110 Fair Drive. I'm a transfer station person, I like Joyce. I heard a problem that I'm concerned about tonight, and that is that there is a grant being pursued for the curbside. If we're going to be looking at putting, making people vote with their feet, which side is cheaper, that's putting a thumb on the scale. I don't see a grant going out for the transfer station, nor has there ever been one. I just think that shouldn't be priced. By all means, get your grant, save portion the money, but the people, the two enterprise funds should be treated equally. Either we get a grant on both.
Mr. President, if I may.
Yep.
Just to clarify, the grant application is for the bins, the cost of the bins. It's not for the operation. And obviously, the price that will be presented to the council on December 9th won't include that because we wanted an answer for that. So that would be applied the following year to the cost of the bins, which is rolled into the cost of the sticker price. So that would be reflected a year later if it is in fact successful, but it's not to the operation of the curbside program.
Mr. Trainer really confirms exactly what I told you, that the thumb is on the scale, prices will be changed by the grant. That should not be occurring if we're going to make these two equal enterprise funds.
Mr. President, I would just say, far be it from me to disagree with Mr. Green. There's no thumb on the scale. There is no grant that we're aware of right now for the transfer station. And if there were, we would apply for that as well. And we're looking to save the costs across both enterprise funds. And as a matter of fact, all three. There's one in Prudence Island that we haven't talked about. But there's no thumb on the scale. It's just applying. I think it would be absolutely, it would be the height of fiduciary irresponsibility for us not to try to find a way to in some way lower the cost of these bins. That's all we're doing.
I'm not, again, I'm not saying that we couldn't find a way or get the grant. I'm just saying we need to make, if we're going to make this an equal enterprise thing, we can't be reducing the cost of one to the exclusion of the other, which will make exactly what's been happening, just accelerate.
But Mr. Greg, the grant, if it were obtained, would be for the one-time expense of purchasing the bins. It would not have any effect on the annual operational expenses of either facility. So this would be a start, I think, to get the bins in people's hands. People who use the transfer station already have the means of transporting their waste to the transfer station. They don't need it. So there's no kind of comparable expense for which we could apply for a grant.
Six years ago, $200,000 was spent for a compactor, which is bonded and is going into the cost of the transfer station. That's the sort of thing that you could have gotten a grant for, or maybe not. But my point is, if we had gotten that, this might be an equal footing. It is not. Just a point. If you choose not to understand what I'm saying, that's fine, but I think there's a lot of other people out here to do.
Mr. President,
I don't want to prolong tonight.
I don't either, Mr. President.
And I certainly don't want to hear from you, Ms. Levack.
All right, hold on.
Well, Mr. Green, you don't get to pick who you get to see, hear from.
The costs are unknown to people right now. We need wording changes in the ordinance. There are a number of other things that I think need to be looked at. I suggest that you table for tonight this ordinance and take it up at the next meeting. The next meeting will be held by the new council, who will have to live with this decision. I think it's the height of arrogance to make the new council live with a decision that you're making tonight and not let them weigh in on it.
So wrong, the consequences.
There's three people, not a majority, who will come back in that next council that are here. The instigator of this whole thing, the councilor that instigated this whole thing several years ago, is not even here tonight. So I would suggest that you just table it and let the new council make this decision and let them live with the decision they're making, rather than saddle them with the decision that the people at the table tonight are making for them. Thank you.
Mr. Green, and if the new council were saddled with the decision, if depending on what the outcome of is tonight, the new council would also have the ability to revisit this ordinance like any other ordinance in the town. So, I mean, it's not,
No, you're right. They could.
Right.
But what happens then is Mr. Rayner is put in a terrible position, because you've got to go through, to change the ordinance, you've got to go through a whole new hearing, advertising and so forth, and he's not going to make his time.
So here's the thing though, but the other councils, some of them are here, right? Maybe not everybody's here, I don't know. But again, this is the public hearing, right? This is the public hearing. So it's up to this council to make a decision on what to do tonight. If a future council wants to revisit any decision, it's in their prerogative. They can absolutely do it.
And maybe they will, but my point is, you can make it a lot easier and a lot less time by just tabling this for the next meeting.
I've been sitting here since 7 o'clock. So you think I'm just gonna like? Any further comment, questions? This is a public hearing. Okay, Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0 to close the public hearing. I do want to,
Mr. President? Would it be appropriate to address the amendment that was suggested before moving the article as a whole?
well, that's, yes, I think we.
What's that?
I think we need to address the amendment that was discussed for the prohibited acts and just get to some clarification there or consensus from the council.
Okay. Mr. President, I would move that that portion of the ordinance under 326-43 prohibited acts be amended to include, to remove all the language after any to the comma before commercial. That is to remove generator of residential waste, comma, from the ordinance as proposed.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
No. Good to see you.
Mr. President, who was your second?
Dr. Ryan was.
My allergies are getting to me. I'm losing my voice.
All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so the motion passes on amendment.
Mr. President, I would move ordinance as amended.
Seconded.
Any
Mr. President,
further? Yep.
I just want to comment. Again, for me, it's all about the choice. And
Gleason, I cannot hear you.
talking to the microphone. Anybody hearing this? Okay. It's all about choice for me. I think the timing of this ordinance is bad. I think we could get the 4,000 people with the ordinance if we give them a price that's lower than what they're paying now. Unfortunately, I'm in a circumstance that I'll be voting yes to this ordinance only because I'm going to give notice that I reserve the right to bring this back for reconsideration at the next meeting based on Robert's Rules of Order. If I vote no, just so people understand, I won't be able to do that, but I'm voting for this and it's not in my heart to go with this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gleason. Okay. All right. Any further discussion?
No.
Council?
Yeah, I will bring up the same concern that I've had as we started this conversation, probably 10 years ago. That the ordinance itself does not find a way to put the back into the tax rolls. And I think trash is a municipality's issue and we should be paying for it in our taxes. So I won't vote for the ordinance because we don't have a way to get it into the tax rolls. This was a discussion that I brought up multiple times as we made this discussion. But I promise to work with the administration and Mr. Woodhead to find every way we can to bring this number down from 442 lower. And I would, it's not technically on the agenda, but I would ask that Mr. Woodhead look at the numbers as you're doing your work because it's being done over the next 6 weeks and we don't have another council meeting before that. To see what the cost differential would be for the 96 and 96. 96 for trash and 96 for recyclables for both. My number is about 600. The 96 gallon cart for both trash and recyclable. Just to see what the differential is. So when you, as you're doing your calculations for December 9th, can you please figure that one in as well? My number is an extra $29,000, I think, but thank you.
Okay, Mr. President, I'd only like to comment that the whole purpose of going to the 60 gallon on the solid waste side, the trash, is for the green environment. And I think that came out of the recycling committee and it's probably come out of the consultant.
Yeah.
So it'd be counterintuitive, for lack of better words, to go backwards at that. And just a point I'd like to make, having been on that recycling committee.
Mr. President, if I can, just to that point, I think that going to the 96 gallon drum makes more sense if we're going apples to apples on what's normal service around the town. I will have to say that I will be voting yes, but I have to, Mr. Hamilton took everything I was about to say. My only thing is that I think it would be much easier to position the town to be in a contract and a service and finding a way over time to put it back into the rolls, into the tax rolls. And I think it's just easier if we know from actual data of what the service looks like to be able to transition it over time into the tax roll, make it a completely town-funded activity. I just think that it'd be better positioning ourselves if we do move forward with this so that we have our own empirical data on how this function will actually work.
Okay. Any further comments, questions? Okay. So we have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance as amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 5-1. Dissent. Okay. Next, we have correspondence.
Mr. President, I move that all correspondence be received and placed on file.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Future meetings, sounds like November 25th is our next scheduled council meeting, followed by December 9th and December 23rd is what it is.
Motion to adjourn.
Well, for most of it, for those of you, the 25th will probably be the new council being sworn in. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Or sworn at, one or the other.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
What's with those two mics?
I don't know.
I don't like each other.